Out in the farthest edges of human territory, where stars looked sharper and colder than anywhere else, the listening station Epsilon 7 floated in the black. It was a lonely post, manned by a handful of operators who spent more time watching, blinking lights than speaking to each other. Captain Reeve Carter had been here for 3 years, long enough to know the rhythm of the void, how the background noise of space was never truly silent. Ships came and went, comets passed, far-off radio chatter sometimes leaked in from other stations. But tonight was different. Reeve's console flashed with a faint, irregular pulse, something from beyond the galactic rim, a place so empty on the maps it was simply labeled uncharted. He frowned, leaning forward as the signal repeated. It wasn't the random static of space, it was structured. Pauses, bursts, long tones, short tones. Reeve initiated the spectral filter, expecting the usual distortion to clean up into alien gibberish, or maybe some rogue mining beacon. Instead, his heart froze. It was human speech. Distorted, yes, but unmistakable. The more he listened, the colder his skin became. It was his name. Not once, but over and over. Reeve. Reeve Carter. Reeve. The voice was warped, slowed down, as if it had traveled for centuries through the void. He glanced around. None of the other operators had noticed yet. He quickly saved the recording to his private channel. He had no family out here, no friends beyond the crew, and yet someone nor something knew his name from a place no human had ever gone. Within the hour, the entire station command was awake. Analysts confirmed the signal was real and originating from nearly 50 light-years beyond the furthest colonized system. That area was supposed to be a dead zone. No planets, no stations, nothing to transmit a message. Fleet Command gave their order. Dispatch a reconnaissance vessel. Verify the source. Reeve didn't want to go. Every instinct told him this wasn't a simple signal bounce or a lost probe. But he was the one the signal called by name. Command wasn't going to let him sit this out. The recon ship, Aurora's Edge, cut through. The void, carrying only a small crew engineers, a linguist named Mara Singh, a security detail, and Reeve as mission leader. The closer they got to the source, the more unsettling it became. The signal didn't fade, it got stronger, clearer, and stranger. The voice shifted in tone, sometimes whispering, sometimes shouting, repeating fragments of sentences in a language none of them recognized. Mara was the first to point out that parts of the message were reversed, like a mirror audio. When played backwards, the strange language became perfect, accent-free English. "Come back to us," it said. "We remember." After 5 days of travel, they found it. A massive, derelict alien ship drifted silently in the void, its black hull scarred by burns and meteor strikes. The design was unlike anything in known galactic history. No visible engines, no markings, no windows. Just a jagged, almost organic shape, like it had been grown instead of built. Their scans showed no power signatures, no life signs, yet the signal was coming from deep inside. Docking was a slow, careful process. The airlock creaked as they cut through, and a stale, metallic smell flooded in. The scent of something ancient and long sealed away. The interior was vast, shadowy, and unnervingly quiet. The corridors were curved with strange etched patterns in the walls, like writing that had been worn smooth over centuries. The further they went, the more it felt like the ship wasn't entirely dead. Some panels still hummed faintly. Once or twice, Reeve thought he saw movement in the corners of his vision, but when he turned, there was nothing. Then they found the chamber. It was larger than the station hangar, its walls lined with skeletal remains. At first, no one spoke, assuming they were alien bones. But under the helmet lights, the truth was impossible to deny. Many of them were human. It's not modern human, primitive, ancient, as if from a time before humanity's first colony ships. They were thousands of years old, but perfectly preserved, as though the vacuum itself had been kept out. Some still wore scraps of fabric that didn't match any known historical style. How is this possible? Mara whispered, her voice echoing in the chamber. No one answered. Reeve moved closer to a skeleton half buried under fallen debris. Something glittered beside it, a small metal disc. He picked it up and brushed off the dust. It was a fleet insignia, old but still recognizable. A fleet insignia from centuries before the first fleet ship was even designed. His helmet come crackled to life, making him flinch. The voice was back. Louder now. Clearer, Reeve. You've come. The sound was so real it felt like someone was standing right behind him. He spun. Light beams slicing through the shadows. Nothing. Only empty space and rows of silent watching skulls. But his pulse was racing because the voice had not been distorted this time. It was fresh, alive, and it had spoken in his ear. Not over the comm system. The crew's sensors picked up a deeper chamber below them, and the signal's source was traced there. The team descended, boots clanging on an old metal ladder that groaned with age. The air grew colder, and a thin mist clung to the floor. At the far end of the chamber stood a black, coffin-like machine, its surface pulsing with faint light. The voice came again, now in all their headsets. We have been waiting. Reeve approached the device, drawn in despite every warning in. His mind, he touched its surface, and the light flared brighter. Panels around the walls lit up, revealing images, battlefields, burning cities. Alien ships locked in combat with human fleets. The images shifted, showing humans and the strange. Alien species fighting side by side, and then turning their weapons on each other. Suddenly, the machine opened with a hiss, and something inside exhaled a long, rattling breath. All around them, the ship's systems roared to life. Lights blazed, engines deep within the hull rumbled, and somewhere in the darkness, something began to move. Reeve's voice was barely above a whisper when he said, "We're not alone on this ship." The sound came first slow, deliberate footsteps echoing through the dark corridors beyond the chamber. The crew froze, every helmet light jerking toward the noise. In the cold mist, their breath fogged the visors. Reeve's heart hammered as he signaled everyone to hold position. The steps stopped just out of sight. Then a shadow moved tall, impossibly thin, its outline warped as if the air bent around it. Security Officer Hale raised his rifle, but Reeve motioned him down. "If it wanted us dead, we'd be dead already," he murmured. The shadow stepped forward into the light, and what emerged was nothing like any alien the crew had seen. It was humanoid, but wrong. The limbs were too long, the joints slightly inverted. Its skin was the color of frost, covered in faint, vein-like markings that pulsed with dim light. Its face had no mouth, only two deep-set black eyes that reflected, their helmet beams like mirrors. Mara's voice trembled over Reeve. "I think it's wearing armor. Very old armor." She was right, the being's chest plate was pitted with scars and burn marks, but the design was eerily familiar. Reeve had seen something like it before in ancient fleet history archives in the section labeled Suppressed Data. Only, in the records, the armor was said to belong to a species erased from every official log. The being tilted its head, slightly studying each of them. Then, without moving its mouth, a voice entered their minds. It overcomes, not through any speaker, directly into their thoughts. "You came when we called." Hale cursed under his breath, but kept his rifle lowered. Reeve forced himself to speak, though his voice felt small in the vast chamber. "Who are you?" The answer was slow, deliberate. "We were your first allies and your last enemy." Images poured into their minds, not words, but memories. Humans and these beings standing together on alien worlds, fighting some other great threat. Then, betrayal humans, turning their weapons on them, burning their cities, destroying their fleets. The images ended with mass graves, and the black hull of this ship drifting away into the dark. The crew staggered back as the vision ended. Mara looked shaken. "Reeve, that wasn't just a story, that was history. They were with us before the archives even begin." Reeve's thoughts raced. If this was real, it meant humanity's official history was incomplete. No, deliberately. "Rewritten? Why call us now?" he asked aloud. The being's eyes pulsed faintly. "Because you forgot us. But we did not forget you. The others are coming." The ship shuddered violently, throwing the crew against the walls. Warning lights flared. Across their HUDs, multiple energy signatures approaching fast. Reeve scrambled to the nearest console, pulling up external sensors. Several ships were in bounds leak. Needle-like craft with the same black hole design as the derelict, but alive and armed. "They're not here to rescue us," Haley muttered. The being stepped aside, revealing a narrow passage that had been hidden in the shadows. "If you wish to live, follow." The crew hesitated. Splitting up in an alien ship was dangerous. Following something that admitted it was once humanity's enemy was worse, but the growing vibration under their feet told Reeve they didn't have a choice. "Move," he ordered. They plunged into the passage, which sloped downward into the deeper guts of the ship. Strange lights flickered overhead, and the walls seemed to breathe faintly as if the vessel were alive. The air grew warmer, thick with a metallic temps. After several minutes, they emerged into another vast chamber, this one filled with towering pods. Most were dark, but a handful glowed faintly from within. "What are these?" Mara whispered, being turned to face them. "Prisoners, soldiers, survivors." It gestured to one glowing pod. Inside was another of its kind, eyes closed, breathing slow and steady. "We were put to sleep when you turned on us. We waited, and now the ones who did this to us, they come again." Reeve felt a chill. "You mean humans?" The being's black eyes fixed on him. "No, worse." Before anyone could ask, the ship rocked with a deafening impact. The lights flared red. Somewhere above, they heard the hiss of cutting tools breaching the hull. The being's voice filled their minds again. "Decide now, Reeve Carter. Stand with us, or be erased with them." The breach alarms were deafening, echoing through the alien corridors like a drumbeat of war. Every vibration through the deck plates told Reeve they were running out of time. Above them, somewhere in the twisting maze of metal and shadow, the invaders were cutting their way in. The alien tall, frost-skinned, with those bottomless black eyes, moved with silent urgency, weaving through the chamber of sleeping pods. Its steps were long and fluid, each movement purposeful. The crew followed, weapons ready but hearts hammering. The ship's internal lights pulsed in rhythm with the warning klaxon, casting everything in a hellish red dot. Suddenly, a hiss of air. Pressure change snapped everyone's heads upward. A section of ceiling melted away, not from heat but from some strange disintegration field. Figures dropped through the gap tall, faceless suits of segmented armor that moved with mechanical precision. No mouths, no eyes, just smooth helmets. And a faint green glow where a face should be. Contact. Hale shouted, already firing. The round sparked harmlessly off the intruder's armor, scattering fragments of alien metal into the air. They didn't flinch. One raised an arm, and a burst of green light shot out, striking Hale square in the chest. He hit the deck instantly, twitching, his armor's HUD flickering like a dying screen. Reeve dragged Hale back behind a row of pods while Mara knelt, desperately checking his vitals. "He's alive," she breathed, "but it's like his nervous system shut down." The alien leader didn't pause. "You cannot fight them with your weapons. Follow me." More intruders poured in from the breach, their movements synchronized. Almost insect-like, the alien took off down a side corridor, and the crew had no choice but to follow, ducking behind cover as bursts of green. Energy burned holes in the walls around them. The corridor opened into what looked like a command exosan. Oval-shaped chamber with a massive console in the center. The alien moved to it quickly, its long fingers dancing across the controls. Holographic schematics of the derelict ship bloomed into the air and on them. Hundreds of red dots closed in on their position. "They're boarding everywhere," Reeve said, scanning the display. "How many of them are there?" "More than you can count," the alien replied, without looking up. "They are the ones who hunted us to extinction. When we fought them, you stood with us." Temper flared despite the chaos. "If you think this is the time for ancient grudges," the alien's head snapped toward him. "Grudges? Human? Your kind erased our name from your history. We became a ghost." But they never forgot. Before Reeve could answer, the entire room shuddered violently. Deep, Metallic groan reverberated through the ship, as if something massive had latched onto the hull. The alien's hands moved faster over the controls. You can awaken some of my kind to fight. But to do so, you must help. Mara frowned. Help? How? Alien's gaze locked on Reeve. Your hands can touch the core. Ours cannot. It is keyed to your species. Reeve stared at the console. You're telling me this ship's main systems require human access codes. Not codes, the alien said, almost bitterly. Blood. The next blast shook the floor so hard, several crew members stumbled. On the holographic display, red dots began appearing inside the command chambers. Level. The intruders were almost here. Reeve glanced at his crew. Hale was still down, Mara was on edge, and the rest were running low on ammo. If we do this, he said, you help us get out alive. What? The alien tilted its head. If you do this, human, you will no longer want to leave. With no time to argue, Reeve stepped up to the console. A small panel slid open, revealing a needle-like device pulsing with a faint white glow. He hesitated, then pressed his hand against it. The sting was instant, sharp. The glow flared brighter, and across the ship, systems came alive, the pods. In the previous chamber began to hiss open. Across the vessel, lights shifted from red to a deep, icy blue. And somewhere in the distance, an unearthly roar shook the walls. The alien's eyes glimmered. They wake. The doors to the command nexus blew inward, sending shards of alien metal across the floor. The faceless intruders stepped through, weapons raised, just as the first awakened warrior of the forgotten species emerged from the shadows behind them. The first of the awakened warriors stepped into the command nexus like a shadow solidifying into flesh. It was taller than any human, with armor that seemed grown rather than forged dark, ridged plates with faint blue veins of light pulsing. Beneath, its face was covered by a mask of bone-like material, split down the center to reveal a flicker of something alive and ancient behind it. In its hands it carried no weapon humans could name, just a jagged staff that seemed to hum with restrained violence. The intruders froze. Even without eyes, they seemed to hesitate, their glowing visors flickering faintly. One raised its weapon to fire, but the warrior moved first. The staff whipped in a blur, and the intruder's torso simply folded in on itself like a piece of paper crushed by invisible hands. The body dropped without a sound. Reeve's breath caught. What is that thing? The alien leader didn't turn from the console. A soldier of my people. One of the last. You will see what your ancestors feared, respected. More pods hissed open in the chamber beyond. The air grew heavy with the sound of armor plates shifting, of inhuman breathing. The room seemed to fill with a low resonance, like the hum of an approaching storm. The intruders surged forward again, their formation breaking into aggressive charges. Green energy blasts lit the room, striking consoles and shattering metal. But the awakened warriors moved like liquid shadows, bending space around them. Blows landed where they no longer stood, and counterstrikes came from impossible angles. One warrior grabbed an intruder by the head, and the green glow in its visor flared, then went dark as the helmet shattered like glass. Another drove its staff into the floor, and jagged cracks of blue energy raced outward, sending intruders flying into the walls. Reeve and his crew took cover, firing when they could, but this was no human battle. It was something older, stranger. They weren't allies so much as witnesses to an execution. The alien leader stepped away from the console, watching as more and more warriors poured into the corridors, pushing the invaders back. You see now, it said softly. This is why they feared us. This is why they came for us, and why they will never forgive you for erasing us. Reeve's grip tightened on his rifle. I told you we didn't erase anyone. We don't even know who you are. The alien's gaze was like ice. Will? A deep rumble shook the floor again, different from before, slower, heavier. The holographic map flickered to show something massive attaching itself to the outer hall. The alien's tone shifted. That is not a boarding party. That is their weapon. Reeve frowned. It looks like just another ship to me. It is no ship. The alien cut in sharply. It is a harvester. Consumes everything metal, flesh. Even memory. Even memory. The words sank into Reeve like lead. He imagined history itself being chewed up and erased, its past rewritten by something that fed on truth. The alien stepped forward, its voice suddenly urgent. If it reaches the core of this ship, not even my people's warriors can stop it. You will help me stop it now, or it will erase you. To dot through the breach in the wall, the harvester's first tendrils began snaking inside Slick, black and moving with a hunger that made Reeve's skin crawl. The warriors turned toward it as one, the hum of their armor growing louder. Like a chorus of war drums, the harvester moved like a living shadow, its tendrils slipping through the ruptured hull with an unnatural grace. Each one was thick as a tree trunk, glistening with a wet, oily sheen. Yet when they touched the metal deck, the floor beneath them began to corrode instantly. Plates bubbled, warped, and then crumbled into nothing. No debris, no residue, absence, as if that section of reality had been cleanly deleted. Reeve felt his stomach knot. That's not possible. It is not destruction, the alien leader said, its voice tight. It is consumption. It takes matter, energy. Even the record of what it devours. When it feeds, it erases the past, as if it never was. The warriors didn't wait for orders. 3 of them leaped toward the nearest tendril, their movements blurring faster than Reeve's eyes could follow. The first struck with a staff that flared blue, slicing clean through the thick appendage. But instead of blood or sparks, the severed piece simply vanished mid-argon without a trace. The harvester reacted instantly. More tendrils lashed out, striking walls, consoles, and even bodies. One of the awakened warriors took a blow across the chest. Its armor split open, and then terrifyingly, the wound began to unhappen. The metal closed, not with repair, but with absence, the damage rewriting reality around it. Reeve and his crew opened fire, but their bullets and energy rounds passed through the tendrils as though they weren't entirely here. The alien leader barked something in its own tongue, and the warriors shifted tactics, striking in perfect unison, each blow landing in the same instant, breaking the creature's movements for just a heartbeat. That thing, Reeve shouted over the chaos. How do we kill it? You cannot, the alien said grimly. You can only starve it, deny it what it seeks. And what's it seeking here? The alien's gaze snapped to the pulsing crystal-like core at the center of the command room ceiling. The memory archive. This ship holds the last unbroken record of my people's existence. If the harvester reaches it, our name will be lost forever. The words hit Reeve like a blow. This wasn't just about survival, it was about truth. It's about erasing an entire species from the universe's memory. The floor heaved as the harvester pulled more of itself inside. Its bulk now filled the breach, a vast black mass studded with countless faint lights that looked disturbingly like eyes. It didn't roar or screech, it simply was silent in its hunger. A predator that didn't need to announce its kill. One tendril darted past the warriors, spearing straight toward the archive. Reeve didn't think he sprinted, diving into its path and firing point blank. The bullets didn't harm it, but the impact slowed it for a fraction of a second, just enough for one of the alien warriors to bring its staff down in a flash of blue energy. The tendril snapped, dissolving into nothing. More poured in, faster now, like the creature understood it was being resisted. Reeve's rifle overheated, the barrel glowing red. Sweat stung his eyes. Around him, the warriors fought with relentless precision, but even they were beginning to fall back, their movements slowing as the harvester's reach spread. The alien leader suddenly grabbed Reeve's arm. There is one chance. We overload the reactor and vent the core into the void. The blast will tear the harvester apart before it consumes enough to erase us. That'll destroy the whole ship. Better a grave than a forgotten nothing. Reeve hesitated, for only a heartbeat before nodding. Then tell me what to do. The alien slammed a clawed hand on the console, opening a path toward the reactor chamber. Run. Behind them, the harvester's central mass began forcing itself fully through the breach, blotting out the stars, its tendrils coiled, ready to strike again, and in the distance, somewhere deep in the ship, The sound of the reactor's containment seals unlocking began to echo through the metal corridors. The reactor chamber was a cathedral of light and danger. Thick coils of energy conduits ran like glowing veins along the walls. In the central core, a massive sphere of contained plasma throbbed with a pulse like a living heart. The air was deep enough to be felt in the bones. Reeves skidded to a halt just inside, his lungs burning, boots slipping on the smooth deck. The alien leader and 2 remaining warriors burst in behind him, sealing the hatch as they came. It wouldn't hold long. The pounding that followed a heartbeat later told them. The harvester was already at the door. "Tell me this thing works," Reeves shouted, grabbing the nearest console. "It will," the alien leader replied, already moving to a control station opposite him. "But once we start, there will be no turning back. The overload will reach critical in 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a lifetime if that thing gets in here," Reeves growled, pulling his sidearm. As if on cue, the hatch dented inward with a wet, sickening crunch of metal. Temperature in the room dropped, as though the harvester's presence was leaching not just heat, but reality from the space around it. The alien leader barked rapid instructions to the warriors, who began locking down power relays and rerouting energy flows toward the core. Bright arcs of light leaped between their controls, making the air smell of ozone and burning metal. Then the hatch gave way. The harvester poured in, not walking, not crawling, but flowing like a tide of blackness. Its tendrils spread out across the floor, walls, and ceiling at once, making the room feel instantly smaller. As if the very air was being consumed, Reeve fired until his pistol clicked dry. The rounds didn't hurt it, but they bought slivers of time, tiny gaps in its movement that the warriors exploited with their crackling staves. Each strike forced the tendrils back, but only for seconds. Almost there. The alien leader called, her claws dancing over glowing panels. The core's light intensified, turning the room blinding white. The hum deepened into a roar. The harvester sensed the danger. Its tendrils withdrew from the warriors and instead shot directly for the core. They moved faster now, almost invisible in their speed. Blurring like shadows cast by lightning, Reeve didn't think he ran straight at the largest tendril, grabbing one of the alien staves from a fallen warrior. The weapon vibrated in his hands, alive with energy. He swung with everything he had, severing the tendril mid-lunge. The cut piece didn't fall, it simply ceased to exist. But the delay was enough. The alien leader slammed her palm onto the final control. Overload sequence initiated. The core screamed a deep, otherworldly sound, and the walls shook. A countdown flashed across the consoles. 0:15. Go, Reeve shouted, but the alien leader didn't move. Her gaze was fixed on the harvester, which had drawn back as if deciding whether to retreat or gamble on finishing the feed. "Someone must hold it here," she said quietly. Reeve froze. "No, we can. Your people must remember," she said, and her voice was strangely calm. "If the harvester lives, it will come again. Let him what it erased." Before he could argue, she stepped between the harvester and the core, her staff blazing. Like a sun, she struck with a speed Reeve hadn't seen before. Every blow a perfect arc of light. The harvester lunged, swallowing space around her, but she didn't yield. Reeve ran. He didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to go back. But the countdown was at 0:05. The corridors shook like the ship was tearing itself apart. He dived into an escape pod just as the reactor went critical through the pod's viewport. He saw the alien ship erupt, not in an explosion of fire, but in a silent implosion of light. The harvester's black form writhed for an instant, then was swallowed by the white brilliance and gone. Silence followed. Stars returned. Reeve sat in the dark pod, breathing hard. Somewhere in the data recorder strapped to his chest were the alien leader's words, her warning, the proof that her people had ever existed. But as the pod system scanned for nearby vessels, something else came through. A faint signal, distorted, inhuman. It wasn't random. It was calling. And the voice, it was the same one that had sent the harvester.